Hey guys, Butts here, and today I want to discuss the Queen's Bunger. Pretty interesting, unique. That was introduced, actually the first ever league I started playing in Material League, and I've pretty much considered it unusable ever since. Reason being, this chest used to say trigger level 20, bone offering, flesh offering, spirit offering, every 5 seconds in a random order. And what that would mean is, no matter how much you invest in duration, if you're using something like Lethal Ablation, so you can have every offering on you, you could have like 20% offering effect, like duration, and you could get bone offering 4 times in a row, meaning the other two would just fall off or just like they just wouldn't be consistent. And you really don't want to give up your chest and belt slot for something that's inconsistent. That's terrible, right? So fast forward to 3.26, they finally fixed that and they made it so the offerings are triggered in a set order. So what that means is you just need to get 15 seconds on your offerings, and they will be consistently up all the time, assuming you have either corpses or hollow effigy, which says you do not require corpses for your offering skills. They also added some other cool stuff to the chest, like there's offering specific unveils, like 20% offering effect, 20% increased offering duration, and then you can have 2 offerings at different types affecting you. And or your minions, whatever, but I'm not gonna play minions. Point being, that one's a little tough because you don't get to choose the 2 offerings, so it'll still be a little inconsistent, where Lethal Ablation is gonna give you all 3 all the time. But still something to keep in mind. If you could choose the 2, be much stronger. Now, why would you actually try to get this going? Well, for your trouble, you would get, assuming you have 20% offering on your chest, 20% offering on the minion offense mastery here. Bone offering is going to give you 49 attack block and 47 spell block. And flesh offering is going to give you 42% attack speed, 42% cast speed, and 40% movement speed. And then the last one, spirit offering, I think is the weakest of the bunch, but it's going to give you 54 crit multi and 207% crit chance. So that is what you get paid off for having this package and investing to get enough duration. I'll discuss the mechanics of it in a sec. So I'm hoping this gets fixed by next league or at some point during next league. The Runegraph of the Warp is currently bugged and does not affect offerings. All of the offering effects are buffs, so they should be scaled with this. I wrote it up on the forums, so hoping that gets addressed. But with this working properly, you'll need 10.5 second duration for each of your offerings to affect you permanently. Without it, you need 15, and that is quite a bit more investment. So if this is working properly, you would need just the skill wheel, and then you don't even need the mastery, and then 20% duration here, and then efficacy and a max quality, max level of more duration in your chest. That would give you exactly 15 seconds with this, and they would be up permanently, assuming you're not using corpses, like using something like hollow effigy. Now, since this is currently not working, you need 15 seconds, like you need the full amount, and that is another 45% increased skill effect duration, which is this entire wheel, and you need the more duration mastery on top of that to be at 15 seconds. Now, you don't this is like a massive commitment to actually hit all of this. There are other ways to get additional duration, like you can Thread of Hope to hit just exceptional performance from this socket, and you can use things like Time Clasp to get skill effect duration. You can also use Dusk Ring. You can even Mage Bane, like Impossible Escape Mage Bane, which will let you hit a bunch of stuff in this section. You can hit all of this, but that's much later in the league. If you're a dot build, you kind of have it the easiest because you get nodes like Entropy, Atrophy. These just come with skill effect duration, and then the generic damage over time mastery has 15% duration on it, which is quite a bit, like these nodes. And if you have a little bit of aura scaling, this makes this even more, but Malevolence comes with increased skill effect duration, and that skill effect duration gets scaled by aura effect. So it's pretty nice if you're a dot builder. You actually have the easiest time of solving this. The reason I'm using Hollow Effigy and talking about getting enough duration to use this is because not every build is going to be able to use Corpse Walker boots or want to, and it's kind of not really a problem of the duration scaling if you're actually a corpse setup. Like if you're a I don't know, cast on crit DD of chain build or spellslinger volatile light or something like that, this just is so much easier for you to have these permanently up anyway. If you have additional 4 corpses you can consume for each of these offerings, they'll have a 9-second base duration, and with that, I think you only need 60% increased duration on top of that and more duration in your chest, and then you're done. Hell, you'll have so much base duration on these that you could opt to not even have duration links in your chest and just use your chest normally as a 6 link and get incidental duration elsewhere. But if you have these in your chest, efficacy and more duration, and you're consuming 4 corpses, enduring bond wheel, and then anointing exceptional performance or potency of will should be enough. I think that literally does it by itself. So bone offering, I think, is the reason to actually consider this. I think that's by far the strongest part of this. And 49 attack and spell block is already quite good, but if you want to finish that remaining amount to actually get block cap, you can do it in some really weird ways. For example, if you're using a bow, putting on a rear guard, this is 1% off of max attack and spell block, but put 73 attack block and 62 spell block. And if you want to finish out the remaining part, you have things like either Rainbow Stride, Reckless Defense, these nodes here, get some spell block. Large spell clusters have a bunch of spell block nodes on them that you can take. But to get that remaining amount, because you're pretty much close to attack block, and then just get the spell block in an incidental way you can. Now, I think the most typical setup is going to be like using a shield, and if you have a 26 base block shield and then put Tempest Shield on, you'll end up at 75, 72, so pretty much exactly at the cap. You can get this remaining 3% spell block if you want by either you get 1% more for corrupting this to level 21. You can get also 2 to 3 attack and spell block on random jewels. So pretty easy to get the max from this setup. This is by far the easiest. You don't really even need to do anything. It's like this, put a shield on, put Tempest Shield on, you're kind of done. Now, if you're doing something like dual wielding, you'll end up with 69 attack block and 47 spell block, so quite a bit under. With max roll Rainbow Strides, that would knock you up to 67 spell block. And then to finish that off, you could pretty easily just put on Replica, Reckless Defense, or Reckless Defense, and then just be pretty close to it and a few percentage points off here. You don't have to actually use, like, if you don't want to give up your boots or use, like, Reckless Defense and stuff like that, these attack and spell block, like, dual wield nodes are actually quite good. Like, if you take this, you'll end up with pretty close to attack and spell block cap. If you take the mastery, that converts the base attack block to spell block, since these are going to give you a bunch of incidental attack block, which you're going to be way over on, then you just flip it over to spell block and then you're done. Like, for example, if I have Replica Reckless Defense on, or normal Reckless Defense on, I have 75 block and then 52 down here. If I'm taking this wheel, it's going to give me 20% attack block, so I'm going to be 20 over, but then I just flip that over to spell block, and then I'm at 75, 72. We're like pretty much exactly at where I want to be. And then we can get another 3% if we really want on just a random jewel hanging out. Now, the remaining offerings are like even more straightforward, right? Spirit offerings, just a bunch of crit chance and crit multi. It's 207 crit chance and 52 crit multi, I believe. You don't technically have to go hit bolt that. You could go Perfect Agony, or use Replica Series Acuity to get Perfect Agony, etc. Or there's also an Impossible Escape here that hits this as well. But yeah, Flesh offering, just a bunch of attack speed, cast speed, movement speed. I will point out that shield charge is super good with this because it gives you movement speed and attack speed, both which scale how fast your shield charge actually goes. And speaking of speed, you guys know how much I like Wilma's. The attack speed and cast speed on this are separate lines, so you double dip. So that 42% attack speed and 42 cast speed gets turned into 84% attack speed. So you could really, really fucking fly, especially if you could shield charge. But it's pretty difficult to actually use like a totem setup or like Gen Cry or something like that in this kind of shell, because if you have to put duration skills here, which you can technically get duration elsewhere, or if this gets fixed, etc., that might be less important. But if your helmet slot's occupied, your chest slot's occupied, there are not a lot of skills where you'd actually want to use more duration or efficacy in your main links here. So if you're like restricted to just your gloves, you'd have to have a pseudo 6-link pair of gloves, which there are not a lot of super good setups for that. But if you can take advantage of something like Thunder Fist, that's a really easy way to do it. Or some later on you can maybe consider some like Shaper, Elder, like Awaken or Monstrosity. But there are not a lot of skills that actually work super well with that. So pretty restrictive. So I don't think you need to use a skill that scales its damage off of duration. But while this is not working, you do need to pick up a ton of it. So I was just kind of thinking of skills that work like that. There's not a ton, but I was going to quickly go over them, just get some ideas bouncing around. Like Spark scales damage off attack and cast speed and duration. Seismic Trap does as well. It doesn't directly scale its damage off of cast speed without, but it does once you pick up the gloves that convert your cast speed into trap throw speed. Blade Storm, really weird case. Normally this doesn't scale damage off of duration, but if you use it with General's Cry, the clones themselves have their own Blade Storm limit, which Captain Lance did a run built around this idea, and I thought it was super cool. Funny enough with this also works with Wilma's because you get to convert that 42 cast speed into attack speed since the clones are not you. And then you have Bone Shatter and Trauma, scaling trauma duration, scales how much trauma you accumulate, how much damage you deal. Brands don't directly scale their damage off of duration either, but they have this weird way that they do, in that if you end up with a ton of duration on your brands and it's excessive, you get to use something like Swiss Brand Support, which normally you don't get to use because I just think it makes brands feel uncomfortable, but it's great DPS multiplier, so you get a little bit of utility there. And then you have skills, like there's tons of skills like Blade Vortex, Firestorm Repelting, where it's like, they don't like directly scale off duration, but it does make it comfy or you have to cast less. Firestorm Pelting's case, it's probably closer to scaling off duration because you have so many storms to get out to actually hit your cap. I think it's like 12. Winter Orb does scale its damage off attack and cast speed, but it doesn't directly scale off duration. It's just comfy, just like BB. It is nice that it gets to actually scale its damage off attack cast speed, unlike BB, but Winter Orb is not super strong right now. There are probably other skills that I missed, but there's just not, like in that space, there's honestly not that much. So to be entirely honest, I couldn't really find a setup that I liked with this package, like where to actually use it. Like you can maybe make an argument for Spark being just like the most straightforward and obvious, but there's probably something that makes sense with this. It's just I just couldn't seem to find it. So I hope you guys could actually find a place that this makes sense, because I do think this chest is like actually good now. It's just how the fuck do you actually use it? You know what I mean? So, but I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about today. Poops in, butts out.